Thank you, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. I am your host, Jerry Pujals, and this is the Body Mind Index. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about cooking under 150 calories per pound. But I want to be a little bit more accurate than that. It's going to be somewhere between 150 and 180 because I'm using onions and some things that are a little bit more calorically dense than the zucchini I'll be using. I'm going to be using onion, garlics. They average out a little higher than 170, 180 calories per pound. But we are going to be using a lot of zucchini, spinach, squashes, carrots, things that are lower in the caloric index. So come on over and I'm going to start showing you how this whole thing comes together and you can eat a large volume of food for very few calories. Perfect. And here's my favorite part. Let's get that water nice and hot because we're going to use water to saute. We're not using oil to saute because remember, I'm salt, oil, and sugar free, and this is how I'm getting a lot of success with losing the amount of weight I've been losing. So here we go. I always start by sauteing my onions because I want to caramelize them first. And I like a real hot pan, which is why I like using these stainless steel pans because they will actually hold the heat and hold heat more evenly than anything else. I'm going to use a wood spoon for this, and I'm going to start getting those carrots to nicely caramelize for us. This will take a little bit. Typically what I use is then I'll go from the carrots to the peppers, peppers to the carrots, carrots to the squash, the zucchini, and then I will go with the rice, cauliflower. So usually what I like to do is I'll caramelize, saute the onions, and get the sugars out of the onions, especially since I eat salt, oil, and sugar free. We're looking for the flavor in every single ingredient. So from here, from the onions, I go and bring in the red bell peppers. I caramelize those as well. From the red bell peppers, I go from the carrots. The carrots, I slice them very, very thin by using the Cuisinart food processor, for those of you who like calling it that. And they're so thin that the carrots are going to cook very quickly. From there, I'll go to the zucchini. I've mixed yellow and green zucchini together. From there, I'm going to bring in rice cauliflower as the big filler. So instead of rice, we go with the rice cauliflower. Also very cost effective to go the organic rice cauliflower at grocery outlet. That's very inexpensive, under $5 for that bag. And then I'll put some organic peas in there. Beyond that, I like to use a lot of garlic. So you'll see me put a lot of garlic in there. Okay, so I'm going to continue to stir these and start getting things to caramelize a little bit. As the water dries, I will keep adding water. So I keep a nice handy dandy Pyrex just ready to go. And as it starts to dry, I keep adding water. As I add the water, you'll see that the onions start to get slightly burnt. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I want some flavor in those onions. So behind the camera is my son JP helping me out with this. He's an amazing editor, so I'm sure that he can fix all of my faux pas here. But what JP and I did today that I want to share with you is we went on a 10.5-mile walk. So a year ago, I couldn't hardly walk through the corner. And ever since I realized that I can eat this way, lose a lot of that extra fat that I was carrying. And by the way, I'm still carrying extra fat, so I'm still a work in progress. But we walked 10.5 miles today, and every half mile, after we did our first 5 miles, we started doing 10 to 15 push-ups. You see, these are starting to stick. And as they start to stick, I start to add a little more water. But every time I go through this, they get slightly burnt and color and caramelize, and that's what I want. I want that little bit of char in there that's going to cause some flavor. Again, it makes up for the lack of salt because I don't want to take in extra salt. Vegetables, as you will learn if you do some research, you'll learn, if you don't already know this, that vegetables have natural sodium in them. So a lot of us are running around with too much salt because we're eating in places that overly salt, oil, and sugar their foods. Part of the reason why I love the book called The Pleasure Trap, which is kind of what the processed food industry has done to a lot of us to keep us not able to eat just one. Like Ruffles used to say, remember back in the days? Ruffles used to say, I bet you can't eat just one. They were right. Okay, so I'm going to go a little hotter with this so we keep sort of evaporating the water. Now I feel comfortable adding the red bell peppers. And if you don't have one of these, whatever they're called, these are super handy. Full disclosure, I'm not a chef and I don't pretend to be one. In my prior life, I used to own an organic produce business out of the San Francisco produce market. I started that business when I was 23 years old. So I've always loved fruits and vegetables. And if you can hear anything in the background, that's my granddaughter, London, just adding some flavor to this recording. We have sort of the caramelization that I'm looking for. For those of you who don't know, I'm half Cuban, half Puerto Rican, so saying caramelization doesn't work for me at all. So here we go. We're going to go with the carrots because we're looking to extract those sugars from those carrots as well. Another thing that I'll share with you, if you've ever had any interest in considering removing the salt, oil, and sugar from your diet, the more time you're able to go with it, the more time you can go with it, the less you will miss the salt, oil, or sugar. And I'm just doing this for my granddaughter because she just asked for some carrots. We're not quite at that part yet. So the longer you go without salt, oil, and sugar, the better the actual vegetables will taste. When I eat it's been over a year for me now. When I eat a carrot is almost too sweet, if you can imagine that. When I eat peppers are definitely, reds or yellows or orange bell peppers are definitely too sweet. So I have to mix them up with something a little more tame, like the cauliflower or the zucchini, something that doesn't have quite that punch, because I have to level down or bring down the level of sweetness in some of these items. So when I eat oranges, I can't hardly eat oranges or bananas because they're way too sweet for me. So I stick more with the berries, and I'm looking for a little more tart than the sweetness in the produce. That keeps me from hyper consuming, quantities. Now I love how this is starting to smell, and I haven't even added the garlic. But what that tells me instinctively is that now is the time where I'm going to add the garlic. I'm very generous with garlic, so I hope this doesn't offend you. If I find it, I'm looking for, here we go. This spoon is not too, this one's not going to work. So I'm going to go with the other end of this spoon. Check this out, remote type. No, this one's not going to work either. Cut. Take three. Take three. So now we have the right spoon. We're going to put garlic on these carrots. And I go big with the garlic. So I hope that doesn't offend anyone. But I just love garlic. And now, if you look at that pan, you see that little bit of caramelization right there? That's exactly what I want some of the juices to pick up and add to the flavor of the vegetables. Okay, these carrots are almost ready for me to add the next thing, which will be the zucchini. I want them still a little crispy. No, they're still a little too crispy. See, again, I want to pick up that little burnt stuff right there. I don't know if you can see it, Jerry. But that little burnt stuff right there, we want to pick that up and add it to the whole thing. So Jerry and I did over 10 miles, definitely over a little bit, a hair over 10 and a half miles. We did over 120 push-ups today. After that, guess what we did? We were gonna go for a bike ride, but Jerry had a better idea. He thought, Dad, why don't we just go do a cold plunge? So where I live, we have a swimming pool that on the winter, even though we still pay a homeowners association, on the winter, people voted to, you know, save energy and conserve and turn off the heater, which was wonderful because now we have an actual cold plunge. We're in Napa Valley. It was 31 degrees last night. So I'm imagining that swimming pool today was probably in the 40s. So Jerry and I did a cold plunge. I swam a length under the pool underwater at 40 something degrees. Jerry did almost a 4-minute hold in the water at 40 something degrees. From there we took in some vitamin D, took in some sun, had some amazing conversation, and then we went into the hot tub. So that was my day with my son today, and to me, it just doesn't get any better than that. So give me more of that. All right, here we go, people. We're going with the zucchini now. This is going to cook very quickly because there's lice. And now I'm going to go next level, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rice cauliflower. Now the other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was batch cooking. So batch cooking for me is a game changer. Anytime I cook for me to be able to eat 2 or 3 days, feed my family 2 or 3 days. These days we're down to just me and Susan because we're empty nesters, our 4 kids are out of the house, but now we're lucky enough that our youngest lives very close by, comes by often, and they love the food that we cook. And boy, nothing makes me happier. They come over and they just love to kind of see what the heck I'm doing today. Also, I have the Instant Pot going with some pinto beans. Yesterday, I made groat. Which is, and they are oat groats. There's buckwheat groat, but groat is the oat in its whole form, unprocessed, uncut, unrefined. And I cooked that yesterday, you guys. It was as if, it's like eating rice, but as if rice was meat. Every serving has somewhere around 19 grams of protein, and it just had an incredible amount of protein. So I'm gonna try to put on the show notes where I got the groats, or put a link to the groats that I picked up on Amazon. It was a game changer. Jerry, can you cut? Guess what? I found the groats. These are the groats that I bought. This tub, 1 gallon, 7 pounds of groat. It's more expensive than rice. It's a lot more calorically dense than rice. I also have to share with you, it's 150 calories per quarter cup. A half a cup of rice is about 150 calories. But what's fascinating to me, this is 7 grams of protein per serving. And what you get, because I'll eat half a cup, I'm getting 14 grams of protein just by eating this. That might seem as if it was only a complex carbohydrate for you. Look at this, beautiful. This is what oatmeal was meant to look like. And if you want to mix fruit into this or make it savory, you can go either way. I like this savory. I made it savory yesterday. Dietary fiber, 4 grams. Carbohydrates, 25 grams. So it's certainly a fully loaded complex carbohydrate for a quarter cup. Reminds me a little bit of quinoa. Okay, I'm going to keep turning this because I want to get this cauliflower to keep thawing out in this batch. But look at the colors. It's like a rainbow. All right, so now we're looking pretty good. Everything's really starting to heat up nicely. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab that spinach. This is probably maybe a third of a pound of spinach, about a third of a 1 pound package, the big packages of spinach. Put this in here, and you'll see how this usually, just a tiny little bit of water, maybe 4 tablespoons. Throw the lid over that. Now this pan is so large that we had to get the lid from a much larger pan to work on this particular frying pan. But this will go pretty quickly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sweet peas ready to go. I'm going to add those in there. Those are going to heat up very quickly. And look forward to seeing what this tastes like. I want to also show you how I plate it, and I want to show you the volume of food that I have before I go into dinner. A couple things that I've been doing. I'm on a 3-day reset, and what I'm doing on the 3-day reset is my first meal of the day is 1 pound of vegetables like this. My second meal of the day is 1 pound of vegetables again. My third meal of the day is 1 pound of vegetables with a protein, whether it's tofu or some type of bean. Today I might do a combination of both because I'm making that batch of pinto beans and I know they're going to be delicious. I'm probably going to have a little tofu with a little with a little beans. But what I'm trying to say is I'm going to be really full of vegetables throughout the day, and what I'm looking for is to go to bed with a caloric deficit without being hungry. Hungry is one thing that I never am. I don't get to be hungry anymore, so I don't get to miss the other things. But please realize that I have not had sugar, oil, and salt for over a year now, so I don't miss the things that most people miss. People can eat pizzas around me, it doesn't affect me. Now that doesn't mean that I would be around people who ate pizza all the time. I just wouldn't do that because I know that environmentally that's probably a bad thing for me. I am a food addict. I know I am a food addict. That's what I would use to cope and calm myself down. One of the things that I was able to do to calm myself down is stop drinking caffeine. Because if your nervous system is on high alert, the last thing that you need is to add caffeine to that nervous system. So these are just some ideas I'm throwing at you. If any of these things connect with you, you can, give me some notes, give me some comments on the show notes. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm always happy to answer them. So, and here we go. Look at what happened to that spinach. Look at that. And now we'll just go ahead and top it off with those beautiful organic green peas. Now the one thing that you have to know is that depending on your budget, if you have a tighter budget, frozen vegetables are a great way to go. Frozen vegetables a lot of times have more vitamins and minerals than even the fresh vegetables, because being in the produce industry, I can tell you that sometimes those boxes of produce will sit in the warehouses for 3, 4, 5 days, even a week, even 10 days. If we talk about oranges and apples, then forget about it. They stay in there for weeks and sometimes even months when it comes to apples. So what happens with what's called flash frozen, it really holds in all those vitamins and nutrients, and you're actually consuming a very fresh product. So it's not a bad way to go. I'm going to mix all this in. We're getting close to the end here. And now we're just looking to really heat these peas. That's all we need to do at this point, is just heat them, because the peas are really perfect the way they are when they come frozen. They're already ready to eat. I'd love to hear from you. If you can, tell me a little bit about what you have going on for this year. What are your health goals for this year? For me, I really want to go again and do the John Muir Trail with my son. We're preparing to do it in 10 days. I did it like 7 years ago now, Jerry. It was about 7 years. And when I did it, I was very overweight, and it took me about 17 to 18 days to complete that on a solo trek. This time I want to do the John Muir Trail in 10 days, but I want to do it with my son and share that with him. But we just keep moving our bodies every day. We just put one foot in front of the other. Again, This is the guy that couldn't walk down the street a little bit over a year ago because I had, so much inflammation in my body that I was in so much pain that doing push-ups were out of the question. I mean, I was close to 300 pounds. My wife thinks I was over 300 pounds. Because of this way of eating, I've lost over 80 pounds, or right around 80 pounds right now. It fluctuates because I keep changing things up. But this is a reset that I'm doing. I set myself up to do this reset for 3 days. Today is actually day 4 of this reset, and I'm loving it. This reset, I'll lose 2 pounds a week easily, if not more. But I'm also throwing a lot of movement at it, which I'm enjoying. And the only reason I can do the movement that I'm doing now is because I've lost that much weight. Without losing the weight, it's really hard. And the other thing, when I started on this journey, my doctor was just ready to start me on blood pressure medication, and I was pre-diabetic. So I came to the edge, people. I came right to the edge. And I just thought, I have this beautiful granddaughter that I adore. And then I have this grandson who's 7 months old now. And I just want to be around for as long as possible to see what happens next with these kids. I'm going to show you what I do. So here, if I put this bowl on the scale, this bowl is 2.8 ounces. So because I'm going to serve it from right here, I'm going to eyeball a pound of vegetables in here. Now, you got to tell me whether you think this looks appetizing or not. For me, it smells, I wish you could smell it. It smells super delicious. And it looks beautiful, but I'm curious what you think. So here, I could easily eat this bowl. And then if I throw it on the scale, let's see how much this weighs. Well, that's 29 ounces, which, hold on, let me check. That's over 2 pounds. Let me change the units on this. Here we go. Here we go. You ready? Here we go again. No, it's not over 2 pounds. Well, that wasn't 29 ounces. That was the different reading. So it's close to 2 pounds, actually. 1 pound, 13 ounces. So that is a large bowl. So I'm going to take a test. But first, I have to get a spoon. Spoon on hand. Let's see, and I'll be honest. I promise I will be honest. Okay, here we go. It's hot. Here we go. Oh man. I will destroy this. The other thing that I've done, just so you know, and it's working for me, again, these are things that work for me. If they don't work for you, please, move on and do the thing that you have to do. But the goal is the idea is to just make sure you're doing something. My son always says to me, 1 foot in front of the other, Dad. Best advice he ever gave me. That's how I was able to do the John Muir Trail 7 years ago when I was 260 pounds, not 300 pounds, but still way heavier than I am now. So, I forgot what I was going to say. Can you cut? So I want to give credit to some other people that have helped me get to where I'm at today. I'd like to give credit to Chef AJ with the Chef AJ Live podcast. She's on YouTube primarily, and I love listening to her shows. She literally has shows 7 days a week. I want to give a lot of credit to Dr. Alan Goldhammer with the True North Health Center out in Santa Rosa, California, changing people's lives every day. Also want to give credit to Dr. Doug Lyle. I want to give credit to, by the way, he's the co-author of The Pleasure Trap. Just consider reading that if you're struggling with food and overconsumption of food. Also like to give credit to the McDougals. I'd like to give credit to Joel Furman. There are a lot of people I have to give credit to because I haven't been able to do this alone. And they're still there guiding me through this process. This whole thing, there's no arrival to this whole thing called nutrition and eating better. There's only a lifestyle. And when you realize that, then you're going to understand why there are setbacks in the process, but then there's also adjustments and there's also wins in the process of making adjustments. So that's all I have. Have a good night. Bye.